Okay, folks, we're going to wait a few minutes to make sure that our viewers begin to come online. Usually do that. I'll give people 2 or 3 minutes and give them enough time to join us. So, checking out the lighting. It doesn't look too bad here, but this is the YouTube channel. So let me see if I get a little closer here. All right, so a lot's been happening. Give you an idea of what the Campaign for America is and what we're going to be doing. By the way, before I continue, when I look this way, I'm on Facebook Live. When I look this way, I'm on YouTube Live. So hopefully we'll be able to one day get this whole technology together. But our viewership has been growing. I want to thank you all for tuning in each night, 6:30 p.m. here on the Campaign for America. People have asked me, what is the Campaign for America? And simply put, folks, we're going to be out there. We, that is my team and I, are going to be once again traveling around the country, and we're going to be going after the Democrat socialist agenda. We're going to do today in our time what Ronald Reagan did in his time, when he launched a blistering campaign against the Communist Party of the United States, as well as the socialists that were infiltrating just about in every level of our society. Unfortunately, history is repeating itself. We see that happening today. The socialists have and the atheists have pretty much, in some cases, taken over institutions and taken over even some of our cities like Seattle. They are launching aggressive campaigns by running for offices as low as the Board of Education all the way up to the White House. And they're infiltrating in our corporations, in our schools, in our police agencies. It's been a long time coming, folks. I saw it coming. I mentioned to you the other night, I saw it coming over the past 2 or 3 decades. So now they're seizing the opportunity to completely and totally try to change history for this country and take over. Listen, folks, it's by no coincidence that they are knocking down statues, that they're removing textbooks from schools, that things that have been written about our country are no longer written about it, that they're teaching in schools the virtues of socialism rather than the virtues of capitalism. They're talking to many students in colleges about the virtues and the accomplishments, if you will, and I'm quoting that, of Stalin, of Marx, of Lenin, and what happened to Washington and Lincoln and Jefferson. Now, of course, when I mentioned Washington and Jefferson, unfortunately, we have a group of lunatics out there who are stating that these individuals should never ever be seen in a piece of artwork or in a statue or even in the Washington Monument or Jefferson Memorial. Because of what? Because of the issue of slavery. Well, that was then. It is now. And slavery was wrong. It was evil. It was no good, as many other things were wrong and evil and no good. But George Washington is a hero. Thomas Jefferson is a hero. They against all odds, Washington, Jefferson, Adams, I mean, I could go on and on. They stood up to a king. They stood up to a very forceful, vicious British Empire. And we're here today because of them. So we're going to erase all of that, folks. We're going to erase all of that. And then what are you going to replace it with? Statues of Lenin, of Marx, of Stalin. This is how it happens, folks. This is the beginning. This is the beginning of the end of this republic if we do not address it and address it effectively. But we'll be talking about that in length at some other time. But there is tonight, I'm going to talk to you about a few things. First and foremost, before I talk about the continued war on cops, make no mistake about it. I've been asked on major TV networks, is there a war on cops? There is. There is a vicious, methodical, aggressive war on cops. And as I shared with you, whenever I say something I could prove it, well, I'm going to share with you tonight some of the pieces of evidence, if you will, that I have that there is a war on cops. And the war on cops, folks, is not just coming from people we see out on the streets, burning buildings and police departments and overrunning cities. But the war on cops is in part being financed, at least in my view, and we're going to get information soon about this, by foreign enterprises, foreign entities, foreign agents, if you will. If you think the Socialist and Communist Party in China is not watching, then you're blind. If you think what's left of the communists in Russia, and there are some, are not watching and financing some of this, then again, you're blind. Think about this, folks. The greatest way to conquer a country without firing one shot is to instigate the people of that country to overthrow their government, to instigate the people of that country to create unrest, anarchy, chaos. This has happened in Venezuela, it happened in Russia, it happened in Cuba, it happened in countries all over the world. And now it's happening here in the United States of America. I was on One America News tonight, folks. In fact, you're going to see it rerun. It'll be rerun 10 o'clock tonight if you get One America News. And the host had asked me this question that I've been asking. And now I guess everybody that at least I'm running into is asking this question. We hear Nancy Pelosi. We hear Adam Schiff. We hear the left. We hear progressives. We hear the communists and the socialists and the atheists. We hear them loud, folks. They're all over the place screaming, defending the lawlessness across this land. In fact, in some cases, instigating it. So the question is, where are people? Where are the Republicans? Instead of setting up committee meetings and hearings and investigations, where the heck are the Republicans that we elected to office? The only person who I've really heard go out there and put himself out there before the press and aggressively address these people is Donald Trump, our president. I'd like to know where everybody else is. I'm waiting for the politicians, at least here in New Jersey, and some around Texas, because I've been hanging out in Texas and Florida. But for the most part, these politicians knock on my door, give me a phone call, and say, look, I'm ready. I'm ripping and raring to go. And the reason why I say that, folks, is these are the politicians that called me and asked me to make speeches on their behalf, to endorse them, to help them get the masses, get the grassroots people together to elect them to office. And they got elected. Now they're nowhere to be found. And when I was asked this question on TV today, where are they? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I really don't. But I'll tell you one thing, I'll never want to go into combat with any of these people. You don't cut and run. You got a president of the United States who, it seems like the guy's standing alone if it weren't for the people of this country. Seems like he's standing alone. Now, he's having a rally tomorrow night. And the media, my goodness, the media, the left, the progressives, the communists, the socialists, they're all, oh my God, they're beside themselves. They're criticizing him left and right. Oh, he's creating a health hazard. Let me ask you this question, folks. President Trump, they say, is creating a health hazard by having all these people come to a rally. What about the 100,000 people or so we saw in the streets burning the cities, taking over police departments? How about that Chaz, or whatever that silly little community is in Seattle where everybody's packed in committing crimes and you can't find a cop or fireman anywhere? Folks, this is really unbelievable. I don't hear the left screaming about that. In fact, the media not only does not scream about that or those things, they actually join them. They run around the streets as they're burning buildings and throwing Molotov cocktails. Oh, sir, can you tell us why you're here? Wait 1 minute. Bingo, throws a firebomb. Or how about going into that silly little community but they put up in Seattle? In fact, I think it's a completely other country at this point. Mainstream media goes in there, they're interviewing all the citizens of this new country. Why are you here? Oh, we don't know. Are you going to have any problems while you're here? Well, not too many. Are the police here? We don't need them. And meanwhile, there's reported assaults, drug dealing, some other maybe real serious crimes, but that's not reported. You know what's reported? The President of the United States of America having a rally tomorrow night. That's what's reported. He's creating a health hazard. What on earth do you call all of these protests All of them, folks. Massing by the thousands on highways and cities and byways and what do you call that? That's not a health hazard? Here in New Jersey, here in the state of New Jersey, I think it's the Republic of New Jersey now. Look, folks, you can't even get a haircut in this state. That's right. This late in the game, you can't even get a haircut. God forbid, if you're a barber or you're a hairdresser and you invite somebody to your house, they'll just lock you up. They'll just lock you up. Folks, they'll come to you, they'll humiliate you, they'll embarrass you, they'll put your name in the papers, they'll do all kinds of stuff if you do that. I tell you what happened to me at Barnes & Noble yesterday. The mask police came after me. The mask police. Like I committed a big crime. But my point is this, folks, is that the left, the progressives, the socialists, and this is a progression, folks. I'll use the progression right now. The atheist become the socialist who become the communist, and they become the government of the United States of America, like they became the government of Venezuela, the government of the Soviet Union, the government of Cuba. It's happening right before our eyes. And in the future, I'm going to have some guests come on who have suffered the consequences in their countries of standing up to what we need to stand up against today. So here in New Jersey, the governor of this state, folks, Phil Murphy, who clearly told the world he could give a hoot about the Bill of Rights. Remember that one? Doesn't care about the Constitution. He has bullied, intimidated, and used and misused the police to make sure nobody could protest. Nobody could march. Remember that, folks? Couldn't even drive through a lot in your own car and look at tulips. Remember that? Remember the fellow in the gym down there in South Jersey? I talked to him today. He's still going in and out of court. In and out of court, folks, because he opened his gym or he allowed somebody in his gym. Whatever he did, they issued a summons or threatened to arrest him and all that. Drones all over the state of New Jersey flying around trying to catch people in their yards, not 6 feet away. Yeah, well, this was going on here in New Jersey. It's still going on. But the governor says, oh, you can't do this stuff. We're going to come and get you. You know what he did a couple of weeks ago, the governor, folks? He marched. He marched in a protest. He marched in a protest. What happened to the rules? What happened to the regulations? All of these protesters should have been arrested. So why is it that people can't go to church? They can't hang out together. They can't do anything in this state without the fear of the government coming to get you. And he can march with a bunch of people. I don't get it, folks. Well, maybe I do get it. Now, you ready for this one? I'm leading up to something. Here's the killer, folks. Here is the killer. Reported by the New Jersey Globe. This was reported on June 18th, folks. The New Jersey Attorney General, who is appointed by Governor Phil Murphy, directs prosecutors, here you go, folks, to drop charges against protest organizers in the state of New Jersey. They're going to drop the charges against people who organized these protests and marched around all over the place. Get a load of that, folks. But yet, I don't read anything in here about people who demonstrated and protested and opened their stores or, you know, we're not 6 feet away from each other. I don't hear anything about that. But you know why he's doing this? Because the governor, he went marching with them. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm all for people protesting. I'm all for it. That's the American way. Peaceful protesters, God bless you. It's fine. This is America. You should have a right to protest. You should have the right to assemble. Because if they stop you from the right to assemble, they're going to stop me from my rights to assemble. But if they're not going to prosecute you, why are they going to prosecute everybody else? Because the governor didn't march with the Catholics, didn't march with the Jewish community. He didn't march with the business people, with the Irish, with the Italians. He didn't march with all of the American patriots who are conservative. He marched with protesters. And their cause, I'm going to tell you, the cause of the protesters is not a bad cause. The part about systematic police brutality is not true. They believe it. That's their thing. I'm talking about the protest over what happened to that young man, Floyd. Horrific, terrible. We all universally agree that that was bad. But the war on cops, folks, believe me when I tell you this, the war on cops is not from the black community. Oh, no, it ain't, folks. Believe me. I know enough people in the black community. I've worked with them as a police officer when I was in the city of East Orange. I know many black ministers today. They don't want any of this stuff. I tell you, the war against the cops is from the politicians. The war against the cops in this country is from progressive, aggressive, digressive politicians. Socialist Democrats have declared war on the cops across this country. And I'm going to tell you something. There are minorities across this country that are beginning to stand up for the police because the cops have worked in their communities their whole lives. All of us, whether you're a citizen or a cop, we all have a responsibility. I'm talking to you cops out there now, too, to get rid of bad cops. Get rid of bad cops. They don't belong in our profession. And I've sounded that alarm. So we have to find a way to get the good cops to get rid of the bad cops. We really do, folks. I don't want, listen, being a cop is an honorable profession. You're helping people. You're saving lives, for goodness sakes. But we got to get rid of bad cops. And I'll tell you what, I've told cops this all over the country. You know what? Your union leaders, they betrayed you. Not all of them. NYPD, God bless their union. Some out in Texas, all over the place. But those of you whose unions endorse these Democrat progressives who are coming after you, your union leaders betrayed you. And if they didn't betray you, folks, if they didn't betray you, then what are we doing here talking about this? I've been getting calls from cops asking me to help them find a job. They want to leave. I'm not kidding, folks. Some of these cops have 15, 16 years on a job. They don't want to take the chance. Tactical retreat is now the name of the game. They're not getting involved in any sort of violent confrontation unless they're attacked, unless they hear the shots fired first. It's that bad. It's that bad. And that's not because of the minority community. They're being victimized just like everybody else is by these politicians. Democrat socialists have promised minorities forever, since the 70s, that they're going to help them. They're going to help them climb out of the economic strife they're facing. They're going to help them get out of the crime-ridden areas. This is all Democrat socialists, folks. But you know who delivered? And it can't be disputed. President of the United States, Donald Trump. He delivered. And I could go through all those stats. And I'm not going to leave the Republicans off the hook either. Where are you? Where are you? You're going to be coming to me and others in about 2 months after these primaries. You're going to be saying, hey, look, can we get together so we can beat the Democrats? Boy, oh boy, we're caught between a rock and a hard place. I don't want any Democrat socialist elected, but I don't want any phony Republican elected either. We need you. Those of you listening, I'm not kidding. We need somebody to step up and run for office. I'm not kidding, folks. Run for your school board. Run for your mayor's office. Run for city council. Run for Senate, Assembly. I'm not kidding. Maybe you're going to hear the call of God. I'm not kidding. And run for office. You need help? Just email me. We'll find the darn people that could help you. Got a lot of great patriots in this country and in this state of New Jersey. I'm not kidding. You pray about it and you think about it. So now you got the governor of the state of New Jersey says, hey, you know what? Let's give these protesters a break. Only because he was walking with the protesters. So that's that. Now, another thing about Governor Phil Murphy. You know, politicians, they hide things, right? No, they don't hide. Yeah, they hide. Well, let me tell you this, folks. Here we go. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy on Thursday opted not to answer questions posed by Republicans on a House Select Committee on the coronavirus crisis about his state's policy mandating nursing homes accept coronavirus patients. You don't want to talk about it. Imagine that. The guy goes before the Republican House Select Committee, and they ask him a question about how he managed the coronavirus with all the seniors, right? He did that. He wouldn't answer any questions. Absolutely wouldn't answer any questions. And here's the guy running around the state of New Jersey saying the cops have to be transparent. We got to know everything about the police, every single thing, every complaint, every charge against them, everything. He's talking about transparency to police. He won't even be transparent. You know why, folks? He's guilty. He's guilty of mismanagement. He's guilty of the terrible way he handled this entire fiasco in New Jersey. And he's guilty of destroying businesses in this state. Man, I'll never forget President Trump saying, let's not create a bigger problem than what we have. We have a bigger, massive, long-term problem across this country, but I can only speak in New Jersey. I went up and down my wife and I took a walk for the first time in months, up and down Main Street here in Nutley. Franklin Avenue, that's the Main Street. I was shocked to see businesses not coming back. Businesses closed. Went over to Clifton, New Jersey, Little Falls, New Jersey. There was a Fairway, huge, massive supermarket, gone, closed. A cardboard sign, folks, on their window. Somebody said they went bankrupt. I don't know. Compliments of the Democrat socialist, Phil Murphy, soon to be ex-governor of the state of New Jersey. This is what we're living in our times. So he won't talk to the House Select Committee, but he wants cops. He wants police departments, police agencies to publicize the names of every officer who somebody has a complaint against. How about this, folks? How about not only publicizing the bad things that they are allegedly doing, but how about the good things, the medals, the lives they save? How about publicizing that? How about publicizing the number of police officers that go into danger every day and who they save and how they save them? They won't publicize that. They just want to publicize negative stuff. You know, folks, I served on the Nutley Police Department for 38 years, and there must be 100 complaints against me. Yeah, me. Yeah. My point is that some good cops do get people complain about them. When you give them a ticket, it's a complaint. When you're walking across somebody's lawn, it's a complaint. All these are going to be complaints that you're going to be reading about. All of them. Who the heck would want to be a cop today? Remember what I said? The war against cops is not the people. The war against cops is politicians. Well, you know what, folks? It's about time we declare war on the politicians. Don't you think? It's about time we declare war and take the fight to them and teach them a lesson. And we're going to do that, folks. We are going to do that because we're organizing. We're not just sitting around these past 2 or 3 months hanging out, doing nothing. The people around this country, and especially in New Jersey, have been organizing. And we're going to come out very tough and very strong in due time. And we're going to take the fight to these politicians. Democrat socialists, we're coming after you just like you're coming after the cops and you're coming after the good people of this country. And Republicans, better do some hard thinking about where you're headed. Because I'll tell you something, unless you are a patriot of this country, unless you stand by the Constitution of the United States of America, unless you stand shoulder to shoulder with our police, and I'm talking about good cops, not bad cops, good cops. We all agree you got to get rid of bad cops. But we must agree we got to get rid of bad politicians. Folks, I've been in politics my whole life. I got elected 3 times to office. Let me tell you something. At least I had the benefit of working with honest people. I mean that. Colleagues I worked with in Nutley on the Nutley governing body, honest people, dedicated people. And I'm proud of that. And I'll say that all over the place. But in my travels and meeting with other people in the state and in the country, I can only conclude that 98% of the politicians in office are corrupt. They're morally bankrupt and they're corrupt. At least God gave me the opportunity to work with good men and women here in Nutley, New Jersey, whose integrity has been terrific. Now I'm not there anymore, so it's up to them how they govern and where they're headed, but that's their business, not mine. I did my part. Oh, but Lieutenant, why aren't you in office anymore? Because I kept my word. I believe in term limits, folks. Don't you think term limits can solve a big problem in this country? Don't you think term limits is a great thing? 2 terms, folks. I served 2 terms in the city council. We call it the Board of Commissioners, and I voluntarily left. I left because I believe that it is healthy in any democracy to pass the torch to somebody else. So you don't get obsessed with the trappings of the office. You don't get obsessed with the power. You get obsessed with serving the people. And that was my obsession. That was my mission. I accomplished it. I left. Now it's somebody else's turn on a local level. But I know where I'm headed. I know my destiny. I really do. I know where God is directing me. And myself and a few others, we're going to be a big, big part of helping this country as we move forward. And you're going to be part of it. Yes, you are. Every single one of you watching. Because if you weren't watching, I'm not saying if you weren't watching, you wouldn't care for the country, but you're watching because you care for your country, our country, and you care for advancing faith-based initiatives, and you care for this flag behind me. But these people, folks, corrupt. All right, let's talk about real quick the war on cops, and I'm going to read the letter to you at length. Folks, you got to hear this. I don't like reading on the air, but man, you got to hear this. You got to really hear this. But first of all, before I do, another police officer was fired. A Louisville police officer, Brett Hankinson. He was involved with the Breonna Taylor shooting. Now, if you're not familiar with that, there was a shooting where police officers went on executed a no-knock warrant. That means that there's pretty bad people in a house, and you don't knock on a door, you just break the door down and you go in, and hopefully you make an arrest without any violence. Well, in this sad case, and it is a sad case, the police in Louisville apparently broke a door down to the wrong house. And when they did, the person inside the house opened fire on the cops, and the cops, of course, fired back. A young girl named Breonna Taylor was shot. I don't know. I didn't have time to read the entire incident. I remember it. I believe she died. And if she didn't, then thank God Almighty, but she was shot. It was a mistaken house. It was a terrible tragedy. But now the police officer's fired. Now, folks, let me share this with you. There is a move afoot. And in many cities, it's already been passed that they're doing away with no-knock warrants. If I was a police officer, I wouldn't execute any warrants. How do you go to a house of an arms dealer where you have information that there's machine guns in the house? Instead of breaking the door down, the front door and the back door simultaneously by surprise, because you wouldn't need a warrant, you got to knock on the door. We're the police. We're here to confiscate your machine guns and your hand grenades. I'm not exaggerating, folks. This is how silly and stupid this is. So what's going to happen is you're not going to see police officers executing any warrants at all. Remember, tactical retreat. Just tell your boss you're scared. I would be. You ain't going to get me to knock on a door with a guy that has heavy weapons behind that door and some progressive liberal communist type judge decides that he's going to say, well, you got to go. No way, folks. No way. Look, police officers took an oath of office to protect and to serve. But that doesn't mean that they could just run into danger. That doesn't mean that they could actually become a shield for anybody. Nowhere does it say that. They could protect and to serve to the best of their ability and protect themselves as well as others. That's why I've told cops, You know what? Don't engage in any violent confrontation unless you hear the first shot. Unless you hear the first shot. Just hope to God that first shot's not at you or a victim. Because if you, as a police officer, based on what we saw happen in Atlanta, open fire on someone and they die or get critically injured, you're going to get indicted and you're going to lose your job. That's my opinion. And in fact, not only my opinion, that's the conclusions now that many, many people are drawing. This cop in Atlanta, folks, is going to be found not guilty. Believe me. You ready? Here is what his attorney wrote. Here we go, folks. Probably going to go over our time, but you need to hear this. I promised I would read it. This is a statement from former Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe. This is from his lawyer. I've been prosecuting or defending Georgians in the criminal justice system for 25 years, but never in my career have I seen a district attorney act so unethically without regard to his professional obligations in pursuit of re-election. Get that? This guy's running for re-election, folks. Don't forget it. Twice in the past few weeks, Paul Howard, who is the prosecutor DA running for re-election, has put his own ambitions ahead of the good of his constituents as he seeks to capitalize on a series of national tragedies. Under Georgia's rule of professional conduct, Paul Howard is prohibited from making extrajudicial comments that have a substantial likelihood of heightening public condemnation of the accused. In fact, he is only permitted to inform the public of the nature and extent of his actions that serve a legitimate law enforcement purpose. He has violated that rule today and also made blatant false statements. He has also acted rashly before the official investigation has been completed by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Had Paul Howard, who is the prosecutor, waited for the GBI to complete its investigation, he would have learned that while Rayshard Brooks' death was tragic, Officer Garrett Rolfe's actions, get this, folks, police officers' actions were justified under Georgia's law and that there is no legal basis to charge him with 11 felonies. On June 12, 2020, Officer Bronson responded to a call that a person was passed out in a car at Wendy's. Suspecting that driver, Rayshard Brooks, was drunk, Officer Bronson requested the assistance of an officer with specialized training in conducting DUI investigations. Officer Rolfe, the DUI investigation that followed was routine. And at the end of it, Officer Rolfe determined that he had probable cause to arrest Mr. Brooks. No one is disputing that probable cause existed for Mr. Brooks' arrest. Nobody's disputing that. So they're saying that Mr. Brooks should have been arrested. Absolute fact. Absolute fact. We go on to say that Mr. Brooks, too, was polite and cooperative. All right, Brooks, he was polite, he was cooperative. But suddenly something changed. Mr. Brooks began to struggle with and attack both Officer Bronson and Officer Rolfe. Under Georgia law, there we go again, the law, not politics, the law. Mr. Brooks' forceful resistance to arrest and his attack on the officers constituted felony obstruction. All Georgia citizens, including police officers, are entitled to use force to defend themselves from forcible felonies. Over the course of the encounter, Officers Bronson and Rolfe attempted to use the least amount of force necessary to end the encounter and ensure their safety, while Mr. Brooks continued to escalate until at last he punched Officer Rolfe in the face, a second felony. Then Mr. Brooks took Officer Bronson's taser, a third felony. You don't have one, you don't have two, you have three felonies committed by Mr. Brooks. A taser is an offensive weapon under Georgia law and has been declared. Here you go, folks. Here you go. All of the armchair generals that said Brooks did not have a deadly weapon, let me tell you what the law says. Not what I say, not what the lawyers say, not what the talking heads say, but the law says. A taser is an offensive weapon under Georgia law and has been declared to be a deadly weapon, all right, by Paul Howard, by the prosecutor. In fact, one of his investigators swore that a taser is a deadly weapon before the Honorable Belinda Edwards on June 2nd, 2020. So, folks, think about this. Prosecutor Howard, who's running for re-election, actually said that the taser was not a deadly weapon. He said that. Okay? This is what's reported. He said that. But his own law and his own investigators on June 2nd, 2020, in another case, said the taser is a deadly weapon. They don't even know what they're talking about. Corrupt politicians, folks. This is a politician, not a professional judicial officer, not a professional law enforcement officer, but a politician running for office who happens to be the DA who's charging and prosecuting this cop. Incredible, isn't it? Well, it goes on to say, the letter continues, folks. I'm not going to go on, but we all know what happened, okay? Want a copy of the letter? Email me. We'll email you a copy. We'll email you a copy. Google it. This is why I say, folks, we've got to fight this Democrat socialist agenda. They're destroying this country bit by bit. But keep in mind, just keep in mind, minorities in this country that have suffered so much are suffering. Why? Because of corrupt politicians. Police officers are now at war. They're being attacked by corrupt politicians of the Democrat and progressive and the left and the communists and on and on and on. As well as the minorities. At least the minorities and the police have a common enemy: corrupt politics, corrupt politicians. And there's who we're going to go after. We have an obligation as Americans to help every American citizen who's down and out. And we need to do that. Whether you're white, whether you're black, no matter what ethnicity you are, if you love this country, we're going to be there to help you. Because this is now about America. This is not about a Democrat, corrupt Democrat Socialist Party, which we're going to send to the ash bin of history with the Communist Party. And this is not even about the Republican Party. This is about our country. This is about America. And we're going to stand together. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to share with you how we're going to stand together. And how myself and some of our team are going to come to your neighborhood. And we're going to come and meet you. If you're out of New Jersey, let us know. Email me. We'll come. Listen, folks, we'll show you how you can set up a community meeting, a roundtable discussion in a diner or in a hall. Listen, we'll come with 50 people. You got 50 people, we'll come. All right, we have a system set up where we're going to be able to do what we can to come and to campaign for America. July 9th, I'll be in Naples, Florida. I think. We're still working on it. The week of August 13th, 2 or 3 days, we're going to be down in Palm Beach and some of the other counties. I just forgot, folks. There's so many of them. But we're going to be in Collier County, all right, down in Florida. And then towards the end of August, beginning September, we're on our way to Dallas, Texas. And then, end of September, October, there's 3 or 4 candidates that we're going to be helping here in the state of New Jersey to get elected to the United States Congress and the United States Senate. Tricia Flanagan, young lady, American patriot. She's not an insider. She's not an outsider. She's on the side of the people. She's running for the United States Senate. And we're going to work hard for her to unseat Cory Booker, Hercules, or whatever his name is. Spartacus. What if I get in trouble for that? So many things you can't say. You can't say today. Isn't that something, people, folks? You get sued or it's racist. Amazing. It's amazing. It is what it is. Sue me. So Trish Flanagan, United States Senate. John McCann, United States Congress, 5th Congressional District here in New Jersey. And there are a few others that have been in touch with us. But I got a lot of questions before we got to endorse anybody. And how about you? How about you thinking of running for office? I'm not kidding. Think about it, folks. It's a good thing for good people to run for good offices. Just be true to yourself, be true to God, be true to your country. Well, it's Friday. You know what Friday means, folks? Every day's been Friday for all of us here in New Jersey. Nobody's working. I think today they started to work. But anyway, folks, want to thank you so much for spending your time with me. 6:30 p.m. every night, Monday through Friday, here on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Watch party every night. Every night, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Our watch parties, man, they are growing. So people around 8 o'clock, if they've missed this live, you know what? 8 o'clock, we're going to push that little watch party button and folks, we're just going to continue to go on. All right. And we're going to stay on YouTube for a long time. We're going to stay on Facebook and probably expand ourselves. All right, folks, you know, I got to get myself more organized. I got stacks of news things I'd like to talk to you about, but a half hour is enough. Frankly, I get bored after a half hour, so I'm certainly not going to bore you. But we're going to go out there and we're going to do what Reagan did, and we're going to go out there and do what President Trump is doing, and we're not going to, we don't need to make America great again. We already did that. It's a great country again. Now we're going to keep America great. God bless you. God bless America. Remember, there's a God above. Always, always in the business of answering prayers. And remember, our chief purpose is not to please these politicians. Our chief purpose is not to do anything but to please God, to love God, and to glorify God forever. Thanks so much. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless the President of the United States.